Hey there, story lovers. Welcome to Wingman Joker, where every story comes to life. Dive into captivating tales that will thrill, inspire, and entertain. If you enjoy the journey, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to join the adventure. Chapter 463, Iliad Queen. Right this way, Falcon said as he guided Zoe and Ku down a narrow path in the primal forest until they reached a clearing where they saw an old-looking wooden cottage, built right in front of a cave's entrance, seemingly blocking it. Falcon stopped. After going in, there will be no going back, are you sure? He turned to look at the two girls. I am sure, Zoe said. Me too, Ku nodded as she clenched her fist. After going through what happened in the Von Weiss archipelago, she realized that this world was really all about strength. So when Zoe gave her the choice between going back to see Victor or catching a rare chance to get stronger with her first, she chose the latter. She had already learned from everyone on the island that her young master had all kinds of strong and pretty girls around him, so although she longed to see him again and feel his embrace, she wanted to be strong enough to stand by his side. She didn't want him to leave her again because she would be a burden. Good, Falcon nodded, then knocked on the door. 5 knocks, 3 strong and 2 weak ones. The door opened immediately, revealing a young woman with only one eye that she used to inspect the newcomers. The 3 of you? She asked. No, just the 2 of them. I will just spend some time drinking tea with the old man, Falcon said, showing a metallic badge. The young woman nodded. Grandpa is lazing around the lounge, you can see him there, you two follow me to be debriefed. You arrived just in time, she said as she moved to the side, allowing them to enter. Ku followed right behind Zoe into the wooden cottage that was seemingly only a cover. The space inside was huge and seemed to extend inside the cave, forming a huge hall with many doors. Take care, Falcon said, then turned and headed through one of the doors to the side, seemingly familiar with this place. This way, the young woman said after she closed the front door, then began walking in one direction. The 2 girls followed, crossing one door in one corridor to reach what looked like a huge living room with wooden furniture and a large hearth in its center. 20 young men and women were sitting and standing around, some in groups of 2, some alone. Some of them were clearly young masters, others were regular adventurers, and others were clearly bodyguards. The last to arrive are here, so let's begin, the young woman said. For those who don't know me, my name is Arva, I will be the leader of this expedition. She said proudly. What will we be exploring exactly? One guy, a blonde young man, asked. Most of the people looked at him with disdain, shaking their heads. Arva sighed. Seriously, my brother only told me that this place will make me a real man, the young man said with a slight blush, making some people let out a chuckle. This guy probably thought he was going to some brothel. It will make you a man, a dead one if not careful. Arva sighed, not even caring to make fun of the young man. This place here is a ruin, and for the next month, we will be mapping a portion of it, she said. A ruin? The young man asked, making Ku look at Arva for answers. She only had rudimentary knowledge about this from Uncle Falcon's explanation on the road. Think of it as a dungeon that never closes, you can quit anytime you want by using the exit, Arva replied. Our family had been exploring it for decades with the help of volunteers like you. She said, the rules inside are simple. Every man for himself. You can either follow me or go on your own, I will not stop you, just remember that we are not responsible for your life and that half of your loot will be taken by us when you exit. You understand that, right? Everyone nodded. Good, you guys can take the afternoon to get to know each other and get your things ready. We will be entering right when the ruins barrier is at its weakest, at midnight. Wait, aren't you going to tell us what it is like inside, what kind of monster or traps we will be facing? One arrogant young woman asked. You can check the booklets by the door, and if you have any questions, come ask me. Talking about those things is useless, you will have to see them by yourselves to really know their horrors. She said before turning around and heading to one of the side rooms. Quote. Ku sighed, feeling a little nervous. It will be okay. Zoe said. We are strong enough. Ku nodded. Zoe really understood her best. If she was not already committed to serving young Master Victor her entire life, she would have really liked to serve her. Hello there, someone suddenly called next to them, making Zhu and Ku look to the side. It was a noble-looking young man in leather armor with dashing red hair and crimson red eyes. Hi, Zoe said as she couldn't help but notice how good-looking the young man was. Quote. Ku frowned but said nothing. She had seen Victor's true looks in bed and this man was nothing. Nothing. My name is Iliad Queen, he said, completely ignoring Ku after a quick glance. We might be going to work together for the foreseeable future, so I think it's not bad to get to know each other. He said with a dashing smile that was aimed directly at Zoe. What is this? Lyra, who was waiting outside the mansion by the dragon-pulled cartridge, asked in shock as she watched Victor walk out through the front door, dressed in what seemed to be a tiger suit. A suit? I bought it with me from my original world. Why does it seem like something only a dandy would wear? She asked, not sure about the fashion in the other world. Pimps wear it too. What? And you plan to wear it to meet Her Highness? Lyra was appalled. Yup, it highlights my features, he didn't deny her. Quote. Take it off, she yelled, making the few guards who stood near the gate shoot her a troubled look. Lass, it is not good to hit on your brother-in-law in public, Victor said. Let's leave it until. Say one more word and you are dead, she hissed. Now go change to something better. This is the best one I have. Quote. Fine, whatever. If her lordship decides to kill you, it will be your fault. She spat, then climbed to sit with the driver, ashamed to share the carriage with the pervert. Her experience has already warned her that arguing with this bastard was futile. Victor just chuckled and climbed into the carriage. The moment the door closed, his smiling face became serious again. He needed to play this by ear and was extra nervous before, but with Amira's last piece of info, he might really be able to pull it off. Tear fell on her knees beneath the great throne. She had mixed feelings, somewhere the final joy of meeting her great Blood Lord, father for the first time, and the other was the fear of him punishing her. Around her, many young men and women in decorative armors stood watching her with disdain. They were supposed to be her brothers and sisters, and some were her father's disciples, but none of them were friendly to her. All because her mother refused to follow her father and live deep in this ruin. Still, the journey was worth it. Who could have believed that deep in that abandoned place, there was an otherworldly path that ended up in this magnificent castle? You may stand, the Blood Lord said after inspecting her for a moment. Did you bring the stuff? He asked her. Yeah, here are the rings I couldn't open, and here are the cushions, she said, taking a few boxes from her storage ring. The Blood Lord coughed slightly as a few maids hurried to bring the cushions away. No one in the hall dared to laugh. Good, you did fine getting here by yourself, he said with a confident smile. Now, hand me the ring, he said, making his pretty assistant fetch the ring from Tear's hand and give it to her lord. Let's see what you are hiding. Everyone in the hall watched as the Blood Lord, who held the ring, gave it a quick inspection and his face fell and his eyes contracted as he read the lines the system threw at him. Quote. Interesting, he swallowed hard and said as he put the ring in his pocket. His hand was shaking. I need to check a few things. You may leave, he said as he stood up with difficulty, then left the hall from the back door without waiting for his assistant to declare the end of today's hearing. It was as if he was running to the bathroom. Victor had to confess that the Imperial Palace was really something to behold. It surpassed everything he had seen in his previous life, and even the grand palace that the Von Krone built back then would look like a pauper's hatchet if declared to this palace. Built atop a grand mountain, the palace spanned a few miles, all decorated with golden statues, featuring many different buildings and sections. All of which were floored and yielded with all kinds of colored marbles and neatly arranged gardens. Some of those sections were normal, and others were floating in midair, with levitating golden stairs reaching into them, like a huge garden that Victor could only get a glimpse of from below. Above all, this entire palace was built in the eye of a huge storm that slowly revolved in the distance and flashed with thunder every now and then. Just how many courtyards does this palace have? Victor asked as he popped his head out of the window and looked around frantically like a hillbilly. 7,922, Lyra replied solemnly. What are all of those houses? Some for the guards, others for esteemed guests, some for parties, others are for the Lord's harem. Forget that last sentence. Quote. Males or females? The answer would make my sister a widow, she whispered. Oh, both it is. He nodded as he pulled his head back into the carriage, just as a sword swiftly descended where it was a second ago. Bam! A pair of elegant feet stepped onto the carriage's roof as 10 guards surrounded the carriage drawing their swords. Lyra, Nega, who is the fool in the carriage? Nega asked. My brother-in-law, her lordship called for him. She quickly explained. That doesn't mean he can say whatever he wants though. Nega, let it pass this time, he doesn't know the rules, and he needs to testify in front of the Lord. Lyra, who was now standing beside the driver, said, while keeping to her polite behavior. He will need to be punished. Stay out of this, Nega said, then vanished. She appeared sitting right opposite Victor, who was listening to what was happening outside, her eyes inspecting him from head to toe as if he was a human-sized dildo in the used section of the adult store. She seemed to have been wanting to say something, but the striped tiger suit took her by surprise. She couldn't get that someone would come to meet her lord dressed like this. Victor, be careful, this bitch is Aerith's nemesis, watch your tongue and try not to make trouble, Lyra said in a faint voice that only he could hear. She is responsible for the palace's security. And she can make your life miserable. Hearing her, Victor just smiled as he looked at the woman in a revealing dress and sexy sandals sitting in front of him, carefully inspecting her from head to toe, mirroring what she was doing. Name, Nega True Wind. Stormbringer. Level, 189. Class, Storm Holy Knight, SS. Abnormal status, Storm Lord's Major Blessing, SSS. Authority, 18+2. Health, 6,732. Stamina, 7,183. Mana, 7,910. Strength, 673. Agility, 718. Intelligence, 791. Luck, 5. Charm, 50. Order, 1244. Skills, Storm Command, SS. Storm Ride, S. Wind Blade, S. Rain Shadow, S. Sword Arts, S. Soft Wind Step, S. Howling Steps, A. Wind Casting, A. Dragon Riding, A. Lance Arts, A. Sword Arts, A. Charm, A. Archery, A. Pole Arts, B. Martial Arts, B. Pain Tolerance, B. Cold Resistance, B. Stun Resistance, B. Magic Resistance, C. Poison Resistance, B. Shield Arts, C. Fishing, F. Moon Dancing, F. Music Arts, F. Bloodline, Moon Elf, 25%. Fate, Fate's Power, A. Defined Fate, be burned to death by the Sun Lord. Destiny list less than 10 order points to unveil greater than. What, am I more beautiful than your little wife? She finally asked as she noticed Victor's eyes crawl all over her body. It made her feel a little amused rather than angry. After castrating a few men a few years ago, no one ever dared to do that to her ever again. She had no idea that Aerith felt the same before she fell into Victor's honey-laid trap. About the same in that regard, Victor told the truth. She was pretty good looking. But you are not horny enough for my taste. He quickly added, pointing to his head, to the point where Aerith had her single horn protruding from. Oh, that answer took her by surprise, ha 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 ha. You are really funny, she said. You know that your world earlier would warrant capital punishment, right? She said as she moved her sword to point at different parts of his body. Let's see if you can keep your attitude after losing a few limbs. Would depend on the limbs, he said calmly as he flicked his finger casually. Some can be regrown. Now really? She asked in clear disdain. Yes, what if I were the little thing hiding in here? She asked. You mean this? Wah, how can it be this huge? Others call theirs their little brother, I call it my big brother. He said proudly. Wanna touch it? Bastard you. Wait, damn, careful, ah, bastard, let go. No, you were the one who provoked it first. No, it wants you. No, go easier. Hearing that last scream of hers, the guards outside wanted to break right in, but hearing the last words, they stopped and looked at Lyra with confused expressions, as if asking her whether what was happening inside was real. She could only open her mouth like an idiot as she heard the voice of her sister's nemesis scream in ecstasy. What the? Ah, ah, ah. Everyone was in shock, but no one dared to trouble the two lovers inside. Ellipsis. Of course, none of what the guards and Lyra heard outside was true. Victor was no longer the kind of lowly pervert who would sleep with any girl he could find. He had high standards nowadays, or his harem would expand to fill the entire female population. The moment that Nega pointed her sword at him, Victor saw the death fate thread cut him in half. This bitch was here to kill him. So he quickly used anesthesia to make her go to sleep. He had been sitting beside her all this time after all. Looking at her name, he could tell that she might be that guy's Lyser's cousin or sister. She might be hiding this fact though for some reason. No matter what, it was clear that the Stormbringer family wanted to retaliate against Aerith by killing him. They might really think that Lyser's possession was a ploy by her. Well, this girl's reason might be something else though. The hate he felt for her was very genuine. As if she was Lyser's lover. Oh, That would be some interesting family drama, but not his business. He simply took Nega's ring, and after giving it a quick glance he threw it in his storage space and then got right into business, making sure that the unconscious girl had just gone into the wildest ride of her life. After making sure she looked natural, he disheveled his hair and opened his pants zipper, then kicked the carriage door open. "Come here and take her," he commanded. "What?" Everyone outside looked to see the sorry-looking girl. "What happens?" one guard asked after some hesitation and making sure his mistress was breathing. "Don't ask if you don't want to lose more than one part of your body," Victor said coldly. Too bad she could only last one round, very inferior to Aerith. Wah, the guards didn't know how to react to hearing that very unnecessary piece of info. "Just take her, and make sure not to mention any of this when she wakes up," he said. "I am sure she would be dying in shame remembering her defeat under my big brother." Quote. The guards' faces fell, all of them imagining what his big brother might look like, especially one girl whose face was beet red, Lyra. Victor considered teasing her, but feeling that she was still too young for such jokes, he held his tongue. Her actions earlier really proved that she was not bad at all. "Go on then." The guards slowly held their mistress's body, making sure not to look at her exposed skin and the red kiss marks that filled her body. Victor just watched them go away with a smirk. He was sure that the Storm Lord was watching this entire fiasco. He could tell from the array around the palace, it was a more complex version of the one he built on his mansion. That's why he made it seem as if he was using a stun talisman and a disguised talisman. He wanted the Lord to really believe that his master was a talisman master. This was also why he didn't dare to use the soul wine to interrogate Naga. The girl had no idea she was being used. The Lord must have known everything about her, and just let it play to test him. That woman was an old fox, someone he would have to be extra careful against. "So, are we just gonna wait here?" He turned to Lyra and asked. "Go." Lyra turned and told the driver, making sure not to let Victor see her face. She was in utter shock. No wonder her sister fell for this pervert. Even the man-killer Nega fell for him. Just what kind of brother did he have? Despite her willingness, she couldn't take that question off her mind for the entire trip, nor could the poor driver who for the first time in his life, felt ashamed of being a man. Chapter 464, Eternal Lord. The carriage slowly made its way through the mountain, finally approaching a giant crystal palace that was in the very center of the huge storm that surrounded the entire city. As soon as the carriage stopped, Victor stepped down, sighing, and looked up at the amazing palace with its high crystal walls and spiraling glass-like towers. It had a strange Gothic-like architecture but with a hint of elvish influence. "What?" Impressed, Lyra jumped down from her seat and said. She was trying hard to forget the thoughts that she had earlier about what had happened with Nega. "Yeah, it is just that my life is going a lot into the fantasy genre lately, fantasy porn to be exact," he said, shaking his head. Hopefully, he would manage to pull this scam perfectly and return safely to his world. Lyra didn't understand what he meant. "Hey, you are that guy," someone suddenly exclaimed, making him look back and notice a youthful pretty energetic girl walking from the side in a knight's suit. "Do I know you?" he asked with a frown. "No, but I saw you in the competition the other day. I thought you died because you were not in the award ceremony," she said as she inspected him in his flashy golden tiger suit. "You are that guy who oiled the suit of armor, right?" she said. Victor frowned. He finally remembered when he saw her. She seemed to have been the star of that competition or something. He noticed her checking him out when he was oiling that armor but never met her inside because he was guided into the bad boy's pathway at some point while she had probably been led into a safer path. He squinted his eyes as he appraised her. She was not bad at all, but not amazing. The class was Wind Knight and the level was 40. Above the standard for a freshly appointed knight. The only strange thing was that she didn't have a predefined fate. Strange. "Oh, yes, hi," he said after some thoughts, flashing a smile similar to those he had seen Tom use. He might need to keep an eye on this one. Pin, what are you doing here?" Lyra yelled violently, for some reason startling the poor girl who was about to fall for her pervert brother-in-law. "Ah, it's you, Lady Lyra. I am sorry, I didn't recognize you." Pin quickly bowed down. She overlooked Lyra before because she was not wearing her armor but was wearing a simple sundress with her hair down. Apparently, today was her vacation. "I am here with my master. He told me to wait outside," she clarified nervously. "Your master?" Lyra asked. Pin was one of the best knights she trained. After completing the ceremony she should have been chosen by one of the top brass to be his or her disciple. Still, Lyra, who had to leave for an emergency mission, didn't know who took her in. Yes, Duke Stormbringer. She nodded. We were just returning from the Wind Cave and he was going to introduce me to Prince Lyser, but for some reason, he got a letter then hurried here and I had been waiting for 7 hours. She said quickly in a respectful voice. This girl was clearly the talkative type. Hearing her, Victor froze. She was meant to meet Lyser. Wait, she was cute enough to make any guy other than Victor, who was immune thanks to Lily, want to court her, and from the way she talked and seemed impressed by his tiger suit, she was clearly a lower caste commoner. Adding those two facts together the result can be easily figured out. A disaster. Victor could tell from his brief meeting with Lyser, that the guy was a snake. Then, could it be that by framing Lyser as a demon, he might have changed her fate? Victor squinted his eyes. But why didn't fate change to death by demons like the others? How did this work? Remembering everyone he knew, he couldn't really tell. Those close to him seemed to have had their fate obscured due to his class, and this was the first time he really observed someone whom his actions might have affected but was not close enough to him. Looking at her, he felt that he was about to understand something there. Hey, why are you spacing out? Quick, follow me. Lyra, who felt something was wrong watching Victor keeping his eyes on Pin, yelled, grabbing him and then dragging him inside. No idea why she was angry, he was her perverted brother-in-law after all. Yes, she didn't want him to betray her sister after all. Yes, this is definitely it. You are already a married guy, damn it. She whispered angrily remembering what happened with Nega. Damn pervert. And, a man can marry more than one wife. Shut up, she interrupted him. Try not to get killed inside, she said as she guided him through the palace's heavily guarded gate. Those guards didn't dare to stop her. As soon as he stepped inside he felt it. Warning. Conditional edicts apply. Level restrict to level 1. Instant death skills are forbidden. Space skills are forbidden. Appraisal skills are forbidden. Illusion and disguise skills are forbidden. Demons disintegrate. Sex is forbidden. Do you want to allow this edict to affect you? Less than yes greater than less than no greater than. He pressed less than no greater than but quickly disguised his status to match its effect as his mind raced. That sex is forbidden effect was really thoughtful. He had heard so many scandals in the Von Krone Palace back then that he knew that it was the right thing to do. The question he had was whether it would stop it from going in, or would it stop the job from being completed. He was tempted to try it with Aerith for scientific reasons, too risky. But on the other hand, it might make it more interesting. But, he promised himself to be careful, but yet again, Aerith might like the thrill. You noticed it right, how you became weak, Lyra said with a smirk interrupting his perverted thoughts. This is the Lord's power, she said proudly. Shard Setter, Nymera, Storm Lord, does not have enough authority, edict effect failed. X7, yeah, Victor said as he squinted his eyes and looked at the notification. There was an edict shard here. Could it be like the ones he got? He remembered something about them being special to each world before. Quote. Lyra nodded proudly then slowly guided Victor past the knights and the maids throughout the palace. She seemed to know this place well. Finally, after 10 minutes of climbing different crystal stairs, they reached a grand mirror-like blue polished door guarded by 2 fully armored giants who held a long sword each, resting its tip on the ground underneath them. If not for the slight movement in their chests as they breathed, Victor would have thought they were statues. Not really, he could appraise them after all. Azalaria Magar Defna. Class. Knight. Abnormal status. Greater Storm Lord Blessing. SS. Storm Slave. SS. Level. 1041. Authority. 50+55. Bloodline. Storm Giant 100%. Fate Power. B. Predefined fate. Get raped then die at the ***** of Zifr the Great. Wait, get raped? That Zifr guy has some interesting fetishes. Those 2 giants, no, giantesses were each 25 feet tall. Could it be that little Zifr was so big no one could take it? How big did he have to be? What a disturbing thought. I brought Victor von Weiss as requested for the audience, Lyra said as she reported in a solemn voice, bowing slightly with her hand on her chest in a knight's salute. He may enter, you will wait. One of the 2 guards said as she pushed the giant door slightly ajar to reveal a strange bluish mist that seemed to hide everything inside. Lyra nodded. Be careful, she squeezed her little fist and whispered as she watched Victor walk in. Sure, he said as he walked past the door and diapered into the shimmering blue mist before the door was closed again. Ellipsis. This is a glorious day for all of us, for today, I will unveil my fifth, 5-year plan that will change the course of history. I will, the president said, addressing the army of soldiers and dignitaries standing beneath the stage. In addition to the cameras that surrounded the stage. Are you sure this will work? Mona asked nervously as she looked at Alpha, not paying any attention to the stupid speech that she watched Alpha write the previous day with the twins' help. No one will be hurt. They were hiding in a press van to the side of the large square. For the 10th fucking time, don't worry. Alpha said angrily. Pay attention to the camera. Lily began moving. She told the girl to her side, making Mona look to the side in a hurry. There on the far side of the square, a man was running while dressed in drags. Lily, who was wearing a veil, was running after him with a sword after jumping out of a window from a nearby hotel. Make sure to capture it. Alpha said. Focus on the guy's face. Roger that. The slutty girl operating the camera said as she professionally pointed the camera at the young man who was screaming for help. Stop. Some soldiers yelled as they noticed Lily. Hey, stop or we will open fire. One shouted as a group of guards surrounded them. Then, be ready, Alpha said as she pressed a button. Bang, boom, all of a sudden, the stage under the president exploded, turning the guy into minced meat. Everyone was sent to the ground then. Swoop, a large crimson vortex exploded from under the explosion, wooing the entire square. Then it shrank back, leaving the square intact but empty as all the people there have disappeared, except for a certain miserable girl that is. What, I even fucking opened the gate myself. Alpha couldn't help but yell before finally noticing the notification above her head. Dungeon opened. Congratulations, you are the one who discovered and opened this dungeon. Dungeon discovering reward. 1. Dungeon map. 2. 10 free allocate. Ellipsis 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 dot dot. Ellipsis 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 dot. Granting reward error. Not in the dungeon. Error log. 04446489984000000000004451. Reason. Singularity Lord, Eternal Lord, was affected by Edict Shard Effect. Lords can not enter the boundary zone. Lords. Alpha was flabbergasted.